Starfield is just the game that keeps on giving, isn't it? From massive hype pre-release, to all the controversy that surrounded it when it was announced there would be an Xbox and PC exclusive, to the polarized reactions to it when the game finally came out, and now discussions that wage in the present day about the state of video game development. And I want to talk about this issue that has creeped up about the Starfield developers, or at least some of them. It's not fair to, paint them all with a singular brush, that has spoken out about some of the criticism that Starfield has received. Now, it is important to note that there are a lot of people that love Starfield. You give people the ability to explore a variety of planets, and it doesn't matter how developed or underdeveloped they are, they will thrive on that sense of adventure. However, I do think it is fair to say that opinions on the game have overall soured since its release. And we have seen numerous mod creators decide to back out from developing mods for Starfield because they just simply don't like the game, or don't feel that it's worthy enough to invest all this time and effort in developing a mod for. Now, ordinarily, I don't think most people would care about whether or not someone makes a mod, but for Bethesda games, a lot of the appeal and love and adoration that people hold for those games, and one of the major reasons these games from Bethesda can stick around for so long is the mod support that these games can have in perpetuity, always having something new and fresh that the community puts on offer for years to come. It's one of the reasons Skyrim is still so talked about and well beloved. But we're not seeing that happen with Starfield. We saw a lot of mod support initially, but some mod creators are backing out. And with this comes a discussion about the overall state and quality of Starfield, with some people saying that many consumers don't know the realities of game development, and they don't know the struggles that can go on backstage or back doors that can lead to what the game turns out to be. And this is an often argument that we hear a lot as consumers when consumers try and bring up some kind of critique about the state of a game or why something is a certain way. That many consumers don't know what they're talking about, and sure, that is true, but I feel it also, I wouldn't say moves the goalpost, it just shifts the argument to something that isn't important. Because the reality of the video games industry is that what goes into the creation of the end product is borderline irrelevant for most people. The main thing, the primary thing that matters, is what that end product is. Is it fun? Is it enjoyable? Is it engaging? Is it worth the money? How long it took to develop, or what difficulties and issues that were raised in the development of that game just simply don't matter, because that's not the concern of the consumer. The consumer only cares about, at least most of them, only care about what the state the final game release is. And if it's fun and enjoyable, they'll gladly play it. Look at what happened with Cyberpunk 2077. The game was lambasted on launch for all the numerous issues, both development-wise and performance-wise, that the game had when it released, but then a couple of years later, and plenty of patches later, and an entire expansion with Phantom Liberty, and all of a sudden, a flock of people come back to the game because the game now is a better experience. It's fun, it's enjoyable, it's worth playing. The controversies that surrounded the game at launch no longer matter to the vast majority of people, because now the product presented to the player is an enjoyable and engaging one. You will always have some people that felt burned initially and hold a grudge, and I can't blame them for doing that, but most people simply care if the game is good, if the game is fun, if it's enjoyable, if it's a great form of escape for them. And the fact of the matter that we're starting to see propagate itself and spread in regards to Starfield is that more and more people don't feel that way in regards to that game. What the creative direction was, what the vision was beforehand, what the issues that were raised in the development of the game, or trying to make a game as wide and deep in scope as Starfield was intended to be, is irrelevant. The only thing that is relevant is that end product, what you are selling to the consumer. And if it's not up to snuff, if it's not up to par, then the consumer's not going to care, and why should they? They're not here to throw a pity party. They are being asked to play a game in exchange for money. And if that exchange isn't worth the money or the time or the effort, then they're not going to play the game. Now, Starfield was available on Game Pass, but still, time is an investment for a lot of people. Starfield is a big game, and a lot of people simply bounced off of it. They were willing to try it, because again, with Game Pass, that barrier to entry is way less than if it had a $60 or $70 price tag associated with it, which it does on other platforms, like Steam. But with Game Pass, it's just a matter of download and play. And then the game has to hook you and keep you around wanting to play more. And maybe the game is worth an entire playthrough for you. Maybe it's worth only 5 minutes of your time, or maybe it's worth 40 playthroughs, or somewhere in the middle on that spectrum. But it just seems that for more and more people, in comparison to a lot of other Bethesda games, sans Fallout 76 on launch, it's just not worth it. Especially in a year like 2023, where on pretty much every platform, we've had so many amazing games come out and be available, whether they be first party or third party. It's a competitive scene, it's a competitive industry, trying to vie for the money of the consumer, but also the time investment. A lot of these games are long, and people just simply don't have the time to dump 50 hours into a game they're not entirely enjoying as much as they could be compared to the other games they have available to them. That's the thing with services like Game Pass as well. The game may be free, the barrier to entry is lower, but you also have access to the entirety of the rest of the catalog. So if Starfield doesn't grip you, you can just go play something else. And that's a great system in my opinion. But it's not up to the consumer to reward how much time and effort went into the production of a game. And that's one of the cold realities of the video games industry and of video game development. The consumer just largely does not care and shouldn't care about the difficulties associated with game development. That is not their job. That is not something that they are asked to contend with. If they think a game is valuable enough for them, they'll play it, they'll buy it. They'll do what they can if they think it's good enough. And if not, they'll go to something else. The fact of the matter is that while the goal and ambition of having a massive, procedurally generated universe to explore is an admirable one, and one that could be really cool in the future for a space simulator explorer game, it just didn't hit for a lot of people with Starfield. And a lot of other people would have preferred a more tight-knit, confined space that's more handcrafted. Not everybody, and everybody has different critiques when it comes to the game. Some people may enjoy and love and adore what Starfield brings to the table, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely, positively nothing wrong with that. But we're just seeing a lot of people not share that opinion. Neither group or camp is wrong here. They simply want to play games that they personally enjoy. And personally, I think the scope and size of Starfield, combined with its PC performance, and god-awful response in regards to that by Bethesda with just upgrade your PC, by the way. Whether it's the game being too expansive and large in scale without handmade, handcrafted environments that bounce people away, whether the Bethesda formula itself is just wearing thin for a lot of people, the performance, competition in the market, or whatever reason it is, people have their reason for either playing or not playing Starfield, and any other game. And it's wholly disingenuous, in my opinion, to try and act like people are wrong for holding these opinions and these ideas because they don't understand the realities of games development. Because that reality is irrelevant. It's relevant to game developers who have to understand what that reality is and then craft a game from that. But the problem is, consumers care about what they consume, and that's what they should care about. And trying to simply write off valid criticism and reasons why people don't like a certain thing because they don't understand why it turned out like that, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're alienating your core audience of people who, at least at some point in time, were extremely passionate about your games and about your worlds. You don't make a mod for a game because you don't like the game. At least on some level, you have a reason to be invested in that game's development and continued success. Whether for personal selfish reasons or because you want to share your creations with others. And if you want to take criticism into account for the future when creating expansions or DLC or even newer games down the line, quote, Elder Scrolls 6 when that comes out in like 2030, you can heed the advice of what a lot of people are telling you in regards to the exploration and feel of Starfield, or double down. It's your choice, but don't be surprised when consumers feel how they feel one way or the other. Consumers only care about the end product, at least en masse. Remember back when the Xbox One was announced? Yeah, that entire clown show? Remember when Angry Joe Show asked about backwards compatibility and he was essentially shut down saying he wasn't, and being told that he wasn't a game developer? Remember that? Because I do. The passive-aggressive attitude that Xbox had back then? Yeah, how'd that turn out? Eventually, Xbox had to about face because they realized they were going into irrelevancy, and then backwards compatibility became a unified effort and front for Xbox that they advertised and marketed. And now, from my understanding, their backwards compatibility is great and is a genuine feature of the platform, because money talks. It's as simple as that. I believe Xbox had to go one by one with pretty much the entire back catalog of games, or at least a good chunk of them, to make them backwards compatible. But they put the work in, and they still haven't regained the relevancy they had back in the Xbox 360 days, but it's a consequence of their own actions, of their own choices, of what happened when the Xbox One came out, and the way they chose to market it, and the attitude they had surrounding it. And if you know the backstory for why they kept focusing on TV and short-term games, then it sucks. Yeah, but again, the consumer doesn't care. They care about what you are doing for me recently. What product am I going to consume? And is it good enough? It's as simple as that. And if it isn't, it will be discarded, cast aside. Not by everybody, because people aren't a monolith. Consumers aren't a monolith. But there's absolutely a tide. And you can choose to ride the high tide or to sink with the low tide. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.